I do wonder, though, you knew June Foray very well.
I did.
Do you think she would give Candy her blessing?
Yeah. June was of the school that, these characters must continue. They must live on.
Yeah. What's up, Docs and Docettes? Trevor Thompson, the self-appointed Looney Tunes critic, the Booney Tunes critic, and as you can see, I'm joined via Skype call by the great Bob Bergen. Say hello, Bob.
What's going on, people?
And Bob is doing us a solid on his day off. I mean, we all work; those Saturdays are valuable, man. And you're being a sweetheart as you often are, Bob, and sitting in with us. And we're gonna look at the latest Looney Tunes Halloween special, and I've always said there's not enough, so I really can't complain anymore. They are actively working on putting out new stuff, and that's great.
Well, I like that. I wish we'd do more. I think we're pretty much done with this Looney Tunes cartoons project, unless they order more. But from what I understand, I've pretty much recorded everything, and then we were recording up until a couple of weeks ago. So there's lots more to come out, tons more to come out. But I'm kind of hoping. I don't know what's happening with HBO Max and all kinds of weird choices and decisions, but with fingers crossed, maybe they'll do more.
I'll tell you, man, spoilers about this special. There's that witch Hazel. I mean, it might be the best thing in all of the Looney Tunes cartoons.
Oh, cool.
You're gonna love it. And I say that because in a weird way, this is kind of a reaction video because I'm showing this to you while we're commenting too.
Right.
Because you're a very busy man, busier than a one-legged man in an ass-kicking contest because you do kick ass.
And I've got 1 foot, so there you go.
There you go. Oh man, did you ever see that Peter Cook, Dudley Moore, the one-legged man sketch?
Of course. I'm old.
I love it. I've got nothing against your right leg. The trouble is neither of you. Good stuff. All right, so let's, without any further ado, let's watch the Bugs Bunny Howl-O-Skreem Spooktacula with our own Bob Bergen. Warning, Bob, the following program may scare you stupid. If you could see that. Okay, I like this. I really do like this intro. Looney Tunes Cartoons presents... Yes. So, Porky and Daffy. You know it's going to be good.
I just love that they use those classic openings.
Yeah, it's reworked a little bit, but it's definitely that Clampett era.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, the opening, which I only remember it as being black and white. So now it really, Ryan Kramer, kudos on this one.
Yeah, Ryan's amazing. He is. They're all really good. It's just a great crew. I have to tell you, because I was a kid who watched the late 70s Looney Tunes primetime specials and whatnot, and, these are just, I'm not patting myself in the back because it's not just me, it's everybody else, but these are so good.
They are, yeah. Okay, I remember the joke on this. I won't spoil it, but they're going to bury one of Daffy's closest friends.
Only my best friend in the whole wide world! Unfair! We spent all our time together! He was always there for me. He always lit up the room, the ultimate entertainer. I'll never forget him. Whoa! You okay, buddy?
I will say that some fans, myself not included, think in these new cartoons that Porky gets bullied a little more than maybe he did in the past.
Yeah, but you know what? The same thing could be said with the new Looney Tunes and Looney Tunes cartoons. This seems to be a trend, but I don't mind it. I think it's funny. And I got to tell you, a lot of credit goes to our voice director, Jack Fletcher, because we all record solo now. We're not together. We actually, even before the pandemic, we weren't recording that much together. So Jack he's like putting together a puzzle. He's got to remember the previous actor's performance and intent to match the current actor's performance and intent.
So you're not, like, for example, able to hear what Eric did here and play it back and hear it.
He may not have done it yet. Yeah. I mean, I might have recorded first, but no, they don't play us everybody else's performance. We just kind of record ourselves.
I wouldn't have known. Yeah. It doesn't show at all.
That's a really good voice director and also amazing editors.
And some great drawings, too, by the way, that we're seeing here.
Superb.
These are some great drawings.
And music.
Yeah, they put out an album, actually. The music was so good.
Oh, did they?
Yeah, it took forever to get a Carl Stalling album, but this...
Well, I know that.
It was like... Well, because of how difficult it was as well, also. But, I think it was like the first season, maybe second season, Looney Tunes, they put out an album of the score. Because it's so great, yeah. And I have to say, it's more, you'll see this a little more in the Witch Hazel cartoon coming up, but even here, it's less about saying, I want to make this look like a Jones cartoon or a Clampett cartoon, because this has elements of era rather than specific director. This is like, I'm seeing tones of Tashlin and of course Clampett, but there's also... Yeah, that's obviously Clampett. But the way they're moving here and the way they're playing with foreground and background, that's all Tashlin.
Yeah, very much.
I love this gag. Watch this, Bob.
Glove.
I'm guessing that was Fred Tatasciore?
Absolutely.
Yeah. That's a great gag.
Finally!
Oh, no.
We got it! We got it!
We got it. Face and ass. There you go.
You know, you can't beat that.
No. There's it.
TV. I got you.
That's his friend.
I got you. Buddy. Daffy! Are you telling me we've been carrying around a TV this whole time? Because you said you were burying your best friend!
So that gag right there, somebody, I asked people on Twitter if they wanted any questions. And you have answered this in the past, but Porky's stuttering there. Someone asked if they write it out phonetically for you what the stutter's going to be, and I wouldn't be remiss if I told on your behalf.
The answer is sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes if they have a very specific gag, they'll write it out. More often than not, it is me ad-libbing, and I stutter until I think of a joke.
Right.
And you know, it's improv, so I'm not necessarily. I see the script when I do it. I don't really. There's no rehearsal with this stuff. You just sort of start recording, and you know, you'll do several takes. But if they have a specific gag in mind, I'll do it as written, and then I'll say, "Let me try one for me," and they never say no. And I never know what they're going to use.
Well, like in that gag we just saw, it was very specific to the thing. I wonder that it was. Do you remember that one? Recording that one?
I don't remember any of them. I got to tell you, I when the first Space Jam was re-released a few years ago, I went to a screening with D. Bradley Baker and Jocelyn Blue, And at one point I turned to Dee and I said, I hear both of our voices on that screen. I have no recollection of ever saying those words. Wow, this is really good.
Look at this.
Witch Hazel. That's very Jones. And I also love that they didn't, how do I put this? They didn't marry ink to every frame. There's a lot of, like, her nose is inked, but the rest, like her chin and her forehead, it's just kind of free-floating green. And it's taking a classic look and giving it a contemporary feel. Yeah, this is called Hex Appeal. There's a great little, you probably can't see it on the screen over there. There's a cartoon gag there. But anyway, this is, you mentioned Jones, and it is, of course, like I said before, it's evocative of Jones, but they didn't ape Chuck's style. This is this is like, what I like about it is what you're saying. It's in the Jones, Maurice Noble style. Sure. But it doesn't look like their drawing style. It looks like it's in the style of those cartoons. And it's about to get real fun here in terms of graphics and graphic representation here with this little spider. Well, I will also say that, it's just brilliant Candy Milo. Yeah, she's definitely taken the mantle. Taking the mantle? I'm trying to sound smart. I'll buy it. I'm not an intelligent man. Definitely not one of the world's foremost thinkers. I do wonder, though. You knew June Foray very well. I did. Do you think she would give Candy her blessing? Yeah. I'm going to do a plug for a podcast. Mo Rocca has a podcast called Mo-Bituaries. Yeah. Where he literally does an homage to things that are things or people, but sometimes even just things that aren't here anymore. And this week, I believe, this week or next week, he debuts the June Foray episode that I'm on along with Nancy Cartwright and tons of other people. Mo's an amazing interviewer. We talked extensively about June. June was of the school that, these characters must continue. They must live on. Yeah. I know that she was very passionate about the characters that she did and that she created. I'll tell you a quick funny story. She was being honored in Anaheim at a voiceover convention, and they played a montage of characters before she came on stage, and I was her date that night. And as they start the montage, she grabs my leg and she squeezes it, and she goes, "That's not me. That's B. Benederet." Yeah. And then they showed another clip, and she goes, "That's B." And another clip. The entire thing was all B. Benederet. And as she's steaming, I could feel the heat rising from her. And I said, "June, when you go on stage, you can't say that. You got to be gracious." She goes, "Oh, like hell I will." And as we get on stage, as we go towards the stage, and she's, she was elderly, and I was walking her, she'd forgotten by the time, because they were a standing ovation. So she forgot, either she forgot or she was just drinking in the adulations. But yeah, she was very, very, very territorial of her characters, but I think she would be so enamored and pleased with what Candy has done. And what people have to understand, when you do a classic character, I get people send me all kinds of, "Hey, how does my bug sound? How's my Daffy sound? How's my Porky sound?" Like, well, you're saying, "What's up, Doc?" You're saying you're despicable. You're saying that's all, folks. Say new dialogue. That's how you can really tell. Candy is doing new dialogue that June never did. So, and she's not been doing Granny and Witch Hazel all that long. I'm 32 years doing Porky off and on. So, trust me, it's not easy doing words these characters have never said, and Candy is just nailing it. And plus of it's just the sheer endurance of not just doing take after take, but giving different performances, and like you said, sometimes improvising, sometimes doing something strictly scripted, and also being able to do multiple takes on something too in a different way if the director's not getting what they want. Well, I will tell you that the way we do these, the way we record these, is we'll do each line 3 different ways. Yeah. So it's like, if the line is, "Daffy, what are you doing there?" I might, "Daffy, what are you doing there? Daffy, what are you doing there? Daffy?" what are you doing there?
Right.
So, and then they decide, ooh, we like B. Let's do 3 variations of B, etc. And then they put the puzzle together. So what you're seeing is an awful lot of takes and work put together by some brilliant directors and editors.
And that's what Noel Blanc, I had the very good fortune of getting to meet him many years ago. I was working, he knew some people that I was working at in a radio station. And he said the exact same thing, because I wanted to know, I was in 1990, in Bugs's birthday, the 50th thing, I was 12. And, I was still getting over Mel Blanc's death. I mean, so I was very much, an older generation might remember where they were when Kennedy was, assassinated.
I wasn't quite there yet. It was a pinch before my time, but...
Well, you look younger than me. I felt I could say that because you look younger than me. But I remember where I was. I remember every minute of every hour when I knew Mel died. So when I got to meet Noel, I was kind of like, I thought you were going to take over the reins, man. What happened? And he was like, I can't do what Bob and Candy and Eric.
You know what it was? His dad's dying wish was that his son take over, and his dad died thinking that, and there's nothing more delightful and wonderful than that.
Yeah.
But I think Noel deep down knew that this was not for him.
Yeah.
But again, his father was just in his heart knew that his son was going to take over, and that's all he cared about.
I said to him, you can do Bugs. He goes, watch this. He goes, what's up, Doc? That's what I can do. I can't do anything else. If you need me to go, what's up, Doc? I can't do a different inflection. I don't know. I'm not an actor. Mel was an actor. You're an actor. You guys are. And I have to say, I've said this to you personally. I want to say this now for the record. It's so, this is why you guys get to do this and not, some jerk off the internet. Like just now you doing Porky for demonstrative purposes, Mel's, my Porky is Mel, of course, but even though, he is who would he, like hearing you, like just do it now, I get chills. I'm like, that's Porky. That's Porky.
That's what we do.
It's magic. You guys, it's an act. Like I'm an atheist and that's magic to me, how you're able to do that. It's like you're Porky and it's just, and Candy, Candy did it too. There was no moment the first time I watched Hex Appeal where I was like, ooh, that's her. Yep, she got her. That's her.
What's gotten into you? Oh, yeah, but please. No, get out of there, you superstitious.
So this is going back to the old Chuck Jones tradition. Chuck had a trilogy of these cartoons where Porky was... They're always going into scary situations, and Sylvester was the only one who ever saw the danger that they were in. It's kind of interesting.
I remember when we did the Looney Tunes show, and it was sold as it's a sitcom. It's more of a sitcom.
Yeah.
And my argument was they've always been sitcoms.
Yeah.
No, I mean look at this. In this cartoon, Sylvester is a pet. He's basically Porky's pet cat, and he's rather mute. And then every once in a while, he is trying to get Tweety from Granny. And
that's a sitcom.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's just putting them in different situations.
And in fact, the Bugs Bunny show, in a weird way, from the 50s or the 60s, is kind of a sitcom in its own right, too. Because in this sitcom, they're all vaudeville performers who are performing their cartoons in real time and all this stuff.
Yeah, I always thought the Bugs Bunny show was more like Ed Sullivan.
Yeah,
where they were just doing little vignettes and introductions and whatnot, and then it became the Bugs Bunny Roadrunners show, the Bugs and Tweety show. They were like, and then there was the Daffy and Speedy show on NBC back in the 70s, I think. So it's like, how can we put these characters together and show the same cartoons again, but make it feel fresh? And it really didn't feel fresh. They were just great cartoons to watch. Nobody cared.
Yep. Yeah, they stand on their own.
Yeah.
I will say this does. I want to mention, lest I forget, the original design of this hotelier, this creepy, this guy, Alabaster Cuckoo Kerwin. I love this design because it looks like in Looney Tunes style, but it's completely original. It doesn't feel like it's a take on an existing Looney Tunes character that that they're subbing out for it. So
there were some stills, some moments in what we see when we would work on these. We would see the storyboards as we worked, so we would get a feel for what the characters and the scenes looked like. And I would see some like little moments, like a take of Porky getting smashed in the face and looking at the camera. I'm like, well, that's real Ren and Stimpy. I mean, that's really borrowing a little bit of contemporary, or at least when I say contemporary, 90s, to something that is an homage to the 40s.
Yeah. Well, the weird thing about the Ren and Stimpy influence is kind of, it's like that Bill Murray, I'm having a brain fart. Who originally did Garfield's voice?
Oh, Lorenzo
Music. Bill Murray, Lorenzo Music, Bill Murray kind of thing, where it was like he was doing, the one voice and the other voice and the other voice and the other voice, and it came to do, because Ren and Stimpy was heavily influenced by the 40s. So it's weird now that like there's a 90s influence on these by way of Ren and Stimpy, because it was always 40s.
Right.
In a weird way. But yeah, you're right. There's a few cartoons that I've nitpicked on in the Looney Tunes cartoons that are, I'm like, wow. But then again,
look at that Maurice Noble sort of
the backgrounds. Yeah. With kind of a Clampett style on
exactly. Yeah, it's a perfect marriage.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's true, because Maurice Noble and Clampett did not work together, and yet they
did not.
They blend very well, as this proves. Yeah. And I love this. There's a rude gag coming up. I want to show you the.
I remember this. All this. I don't know what's going to come up, but I just remember recording this. And I remember this. Yeah. And by the way, a lot of what you're saying was done after COVID. We recorded these in our home studios.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. It's really funny. And I'm waiting for it too. The rude gag that I don't want to spoil. But yeah. So wow, this is in your home studio.
Yeah.
Let me just let people hear that. As soon as I bring up the volume, I need to stop talking. But wow, look at those drawings. Oh, wow. Wow, dude.
These vibrating beds are heavenly.
Okay, here it is. Sylvester's sitting in the water.
That does it! Now I gotta go to the front desk and ask for a fresh sheet.
Yeah, it doesn't sound any different than audio that you recorded for stuff in season 1, presumably in the studio at Warner's or something.
Not Warner's. It's called Studiopolis in Burbank. There's so many Warner Brothers shows going on at any one time. They have to use multiple locations. And also every actor's on a different kind of mic in a different kind of room. But it works because we all had to upgrade our home studios to broadcast quality when COVID hit. We never recorded animation from home until COVID.
So now, does that require an investment on your part, or do they?
Yes.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
I was going to say.
I always had a really good soundproof booth, and I did auditions from home. But I had to invest probably about $2,000 to upgrade to home to broadcast quality, and I've only worked outside my home studio 3 times in 2.5 years, and twice was for singing, and the music director wanted us in studio, and once was a 2-part episode. I recorded part 1 in studio, and they wanted to record part 2 in the same studio just for consistency, so I did, but. Man, I have no reason or desire to ever work outside my home again.
Sound like Howie Mandel.
Well, I mean, I can work more. I can get more bookings during the day because there's no drive time.
Yeah. Yeah, it's weird. I'm trying to supplement my income a little bit more now. So I did Uber. I drove for Uber, like 7 years ago, and I turned on the app again to do it, and I had to update everything. So I had some questions, and I went to the the headquarters, and I got there on the day that they were closing down, and everyone was like, had been told that day that they're closing down. I was like, what's going on? Oh, well, we just, for the last 5 years, nobody was in here. There's really no reason to keep the place open since everyone works from home now. So this cartoon is actually, it's weird that this is the only Bugs Bunny cartoon that, even though it's called Bugs Bunny's Halloween thing, but this was one of the first ones that we saw anything about, any footage or not footage, but any drawings or screen grabs from, because they showed this overseas. They showed this in France.
Was it Annecy? Did they show it at the festival?
Yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Gee, it's so dark in here I could barely see the whiskers in front of my face. Look, comic strips.
See, again, this is what I like, is it's not, that stuff outside looks very Rod Scribner, but all this stuff in here looks kind of like, late 40s Jones almost, and it doesn't, it's about what looks best. Now let's try this. Okay. It doesn't, it's a weird thing it's weird that bothers some fans, because if you really love the classics, you love experimentation and the product of experimentation.
Yeah, and people have to understand. I always wondered, what did the fans think when all of a sudden Daffy went from crazy Daffy to greedy Chuck Jones Daffy?
Yeah.
I mean, there was no internet. Yeah. There were playgrounds, there were schools. Do you think people say, hey, did you notice Daffy was different this time? Or did they just, it's just Daffy?
There may have even been a generation gap in that, where there's younger, a guy comes home from his first year of college. He takes his little kid brother to the movies, and there's a Bugs Bunny cartoon, and Daffy's in, and he's being mean and evil, and it's a Chuck Jones cartoon, and he's like, Daffy was actually Daffy in my day. I don't know what this is.
Yeah, maybe. I can remember, watching the Bugs Bunny Roadrunner show as a kid.
Yeah.
And here you got a McKimson Bugs, and here you got a Chuck Jones Bugs, and here you got a Freeling Bugs. And I never thought anything other than it's a different cartoon. Same with Popeye. I used to love the Fleischer Popeyes.
Oh, yeah.
And Popeye went from this kind of a crudely comical character to really sophisticated and funny. Those were actually done ADR. They would loop them. That's why Popeyes, the ad libs between Popeye and Olive Oyl without their mouths moving was delicious, because they just ad lib. And
you could tell they were ad lib too, and because they're almost off mic and and just like whispering almost, because they don't want you to pay too close to the dialogue anyway. It's like you're supposed to be dealing with the fact that the whole house is about to cave in, right. not the fact that Popeye's going, oh, somebody gets me a safety pin.
Yeah, exactly. But I always wondered back then, did people notice? Oh, they've changed it, or they didn't care? It's just a Popeye cartoon. I think it's the latter. I think people just they didn't take it as seriously or as personally as fans do today.
Speaking of fans taking shit personally, the scene we just passed is one that caused a bit of controversy because of all the blood and guts stuff here.
Oh, because of violence?
Well, the violence, but also you probably may not have seen it, but he was eating guts and spitting them out and hearts.
It's a cartoon, people, get over it.
Yeah, come on, guys.
Yeah, it's a cartoon. It's a fantasy. Don't turn on CNN and watch world things happening with wars and whatnot, because it's, I think, a little bit more healthy to go, ooh, that's a fantasy, that's a cartoon, that's not real.
Also because, when you make the argument that the original cartoons didn't go there, they weren't allowed to. They couldn't have done, there's a few gags with blood in the old ones where it turns out to be ketchup, and you think there's a thing.
Oh, there with your now I've seen everything, and he blows his brains out, but they cut that part years ago.
Yeah.
Again, it's a fantasy, it's a cartoon. People need to lighten up and learn to if you equate fantasy and cartoons with reality, you got some major problems, people.
Yeah. I mean, it's my big, I feel old when I say it, but I think the big difference between cartoons of today and stuff like Looney Tunes, even they do a good job on this new stuff, but it feels like this isn't supposed to be literal. This is never meant to be. He's not really killing bugs right now, guys. Bugs, it's a joke, and and what I love for in Roger Rabbit, there's a great joke which kind of works to explain those more literal-minded among us when he has the cuff on him and he slips out and Eddie gets mad and he's like, "Did you could have done that at any time?" He's like, "No, not at any time. Only when it was funny."
Right.
There's a logic to this, and that is just that we're trying to make you laugh.
Exactly.
Stop it. Porky's not literally walking around naked.
Actually, he is.
Well, okay, there we go.
he just has less down there to show off.
Yeah. Oh, that was a good gag. Did you hear that? It Sphinx to be him.
Oh, there you go.
I think we are at the end, actually. Wow, time really flies.
It does.
Time really flies.
Well, I would like to say congrats to everybody that worked on this because it was really good.
Cheers. Cheers to everybody. Yeah, it was. I like that it's in keeping with the old tradition in a weird way of some new stuff, some old stuff.
Yeah.
I think it would be interesting to see. Do you know? Maybe you can spill the beans on this if you do know. The Bugs Bunny, the musical Bye Bye Bunny. Is it supposed to be like some new cartoons and some new animation together, or is it all?
I heard it's been shelved.